Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, Gordo Gambles, and welcome back to the full card breakdown. This time for UFC 302, we're getting up there, and you know what? We are kicking off a phenomenal June month. Everything here from the stacked 12-fight pay-per-view of New Jersey to Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler at the end of the month. It's the perfect time to be a fight fan, and I am truly looking forward to all these opportunities to make some money. As always, please hit the like button down, subscribe to the channel. I will be doing a lot of content here, so be sure to check out all the stuff I do here, as well as Cool Bet, where my best bets video, and Establish the Run. Me and Brett Appley do a premium podcast over there. He also does projections, rankings, ownership, a lot of DraftKings tools. And we'll be covering DraftKings here, but not to that extent, so make sure to check it all out. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Let's not waste any more time. Let's do this. Get the fight night started with the 8-0 Andre Lima versus the 91 Raposo. Raposo coming in here, short notice for what is a really fun affair here. 125. You know, Raposo, his third attempt to get in the UFC, failed on the Ultimate Fighter, lost to Jake Hadley on the Dynamite Contender Series, but honestly, a guy who is pretty well rounded. He's pretty highly touted on the Ultimate Fighter, and you know, he gets to show that here against Andre Lima, who is undefeated, but who doesn't have the most UFC experience. He had that one bout, and that was filled with controversy. You know, the bite fight there when you did have Severino go out there and bite him in the arm, and you know, he got the win. Very interesting fight. I do feel like the tides were turning for him to get the win anyways, but still a very interesting scenario, and now we get his hopefully a true victory here in the UFC. And I didn't want to allude to it so early, but I am on the Andre Lima side here. Raposo, I think, is a phenomenal wrestler. He's a guy who's going to push a very heavy pace. I like his ability to go out there and land takedowns at a high clip. He's a fun wrestler to do so, but not the best striking on the feet, not the best cardio, and although he has some good wrestling, he doesn't really do much with the top position, in my opinion. He's able to establish top control, not the best jiu-jitsu game, and okay ground and pound, but I think it's going to be a hard path to victory against Lima here, who I think is going to be the better pure jiu-jitsu fighter, be the better striker on the feet, and someone who I just think is very explosive. When we look at the overall skill sets, yes, Raposo has the opportunity to threaten ground control time, but with the judges scoring damage more often and the better striker being Lima, who taking this on a full camp and all that stuff, he is going to pick to win. I just do think that this guy having not only the anthropomorphic advantages, but also the athleticism and striking edge here, I do think he gets it done. I am picking him to win. DraftKings-wise, though, it's pretty interesting because, truth be told, although I'm picking him to win, at 8.6K, Andre Lima is not a guy who I've historically been too high on. Not going to shoot takedowns at a high clip. Although he has good volume, I don't see him as a big one-punch knockout threat. He needs to go out there and land a ton of volume to reach the optimal lineup. In a card like this that is stacked full of awesome, high-scoring fighters, I'm not getting to him too much at 8.6. Instead, I kind of prefer the Raposo side. I know I picked against him, but at 7.6K, his path to victory is takedown, and that scores a lot better than someone in Lima who is rooted in some striking success. So although I'm picking Lima in this fight, I am decently confident he wins. I will have some ownership of Raposo just to that takedown upside, and just because I do think his path to victory scores very well on DraftKings. That is a fun fight, but give me Andre Lima. Speaking of takedown, Elaine Perez 9-2, Jocelyn Edwards 13-5. A pretty fun fight here, pretty heavy favorite here in Elaine Perez, and she is someone who I have backed before. I do love her very offensively minded wrestling pace. She goes out there, lands a ton of takedowns, is very offensively minded, and although she doesn't have the best strike on the feet, is someone who we know we're going to get out of her. We're going to get a solid wrestling pace. She's going to look to be on top position, look to get this fight to the mat, and has some pretty solid wrestling. Her striking's not great. She can be stuck on bottom. Her cardio's not there, but she's someone who landed 10 takedowns in a fight, facing her on Jocelyn Edwards, who can be taken down almost at will. I mean, we've seen many people go out there, take her down. She's someone who is her preferred striker in her matchup. She is someone who wants to keep it on the feet, and although I do think she's the better pure kickboxer of the two, I don't think Perez is going to give her much room to breathe or operate. And if that's the case, I'm going to side with Lima Perez to go out here and get the win. Now, she is someone who I do think has flaws. Although I'm cheering for her wrestling upside, she's someone who I do think can be outstruck, can be stuck on bottom. There's still some red flags I see about her, so I'm not going out there to play a minus 200 price tag. But I do think when it comes down to gun to my head, who is the better minute winner, someone who I do think is going to be the person on top in this fight, I'm going to pick Lima Perez. Now, is there a world where she gasses out or Edwards is able to win striking exchanges, or even where the judges are able to score damage higher than control? Possibly, and that's why it's kind of a sketchy one here. But truthfully, this is one where I'm going to pick Elaine Perez, and on DraftKings, she is all the rage. She did score 138 against Evan Smith, and although I don't think she scores that high, 115, 120 with her takedown upside is not far off the table. I mean, Edwards was taken down 5 times by Jessica Rose Clark, 4 times by Carola Rosa. She is able to be taken down as someone who pushes as heavy as an offensive wrestling pace as Elaine Perez. I wouldn't be surprised she's able to land takedown to score well on DraftKings. Because of that, I really do like Elaine Perez at 8.7K. I do think a lot of the ownership's going to go towards a Strickland or a Morono or a Holland, and maybe she comes in a bit underowned with some wrestling upside. Not the safest floor, not the most exciting play, but someone who will get takedown, someone who I do think is a good leverage spot in the mid-range. I do like me some Elaine Perez, and I do think she gets it done for us. Next up, 7-5, Mickey Gall, 8-4-1, Basil Hafez, in a very interesting 175 matchup. This is a one that's been blown up a bit. We do have a big favorite here in Hafez, and although I want to go out here and tell you that, Mickey Gall still got it, 7-5 fighter is not someone who I'm really too high to back at the spot. And not just because of the record, but also because of the layoff and just the overall skill set. Hafez is a guy who has shown a good rapport and a loss there against Jack Madalena, and although I wasn't that high on him, he's getting a favorable matchup in my opinion. I think they were like, okay, you just fought Jack Madalena on short notice. Here's a guy, Mickey Gall, who is taking a lot of damage, who can be hit, who can be taken down, who can be controlled, and I just do think it's a spot where Hafez should be a favorite. To this extent, maybe not. I mean, Mickey Gall's a decent submission. Mickey Gall's going to be the bigger fighter here. He does have some decent technical striking. He is someone who can wrestle in his own right. But when it comes to the guy who I think is more durable, it's Hafez. The better pure jiu-jitsu guy is also Hafez. And the guy who I think throws more volume on the feet to fight to a better pace is going to be Hafez, as well as being the fighter I can trust more often. He's going to be my pick to win this matchup. Now, again, not playing with this huge price tag, but he is someone who I'm pretty confident gets the job done. The question is, can he live off his price tag at 9.2K? On face value, I'm not so sure. You go up there and you have to play him over Almeida, Makhachev, Dawson, Holland, a lot of these high-scoring options. And although it doesn't look too appealing, he is more of a leverage play to me. Because at the end of the day, he's still facing a guy Mickey Gall, who we have not seen in 2 years, who Malott was able to go score very well against in his matchup there. And I do think Hafez has a higher ceiling than people may think this weekend. So at 9.2K, not my favorite option. He is a pure pivot. And don't get me wrong, he's a pure pivot off the mid-range, but you're looking to get different in big GPP if you have a big portfolio. I'll just bring some Hafez in because I do think he has a decent chance. Gall, I want to pick fighters who I think has a chance, but I don't see him getting a knockout. I don't see him wrestling Hafez at a very, very high clip. I don't see him outstriking him too much. The paths are limited for Gall, and I'd rather some other options at this bottom range. I think it's Hafez as a pivot or pass. Give me Hafez to win the fight overall, though. Interesting one. The next up, a rematch here, 15-7, Nico Price, 24-9, Alex Morono. And honestly, a matchup that I wasn't sure I needed, but I think it's going to be pretty fun. Honestly, I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup. Nico Price is a guy who has been in the UFC for a while. A lot of miles on him, a guy who has put on some very, very entertaining fights, some crazy knockouts at his own right. But coming off being part of the other end of a crazy knockout, let's put it that way, against Romanov last time, Nico Price is an inspiration to get a read on because I do like his skill set. Big frame for the division, a guy who I do think has some good volume, is typically pretty durable, is able to mix up on the ground as well. He is a very interesting fighter to back because I do like the way he throws strikes from different angles. He's a tricky fighter to get a read on. Alex Morono is a guy who I don't think has the same athleticism, doesn't have the same frame, but is a guy who I just think is more cerebral. He's able to make reads as the fight goes on, good volume, good ground game, and is a guy who I just think has multiple ways of getting it done. He does not excel in any area in my opinion, but good cardio, solid striking, solid wrestling shall I get there, and good jiu-jitsu. He's a guy who can do a little bit of everything and can utilize different aspects of his game to beat people. And in that fight against Price the first time, he was beating Nico Price. He knocked him down early. He was utilizing that striking very well. He was showing that he can be a real threat here, but then he got caught. And that's been the problem with Morono, is although I do call him a smart fighter, put themselves in precarious situations, can be knocked out, fights way too close sometimes, and I do think that it's hard to trust him, especially at this high price tag. When it comes to picking a side here, I'm picking Alex Morono. I think he has more tools he's going to get done. I did not like the way the Price reacted to damage by Lawler, and I do think Morono has the opportunity to not only knock him out the same way he should the first time, but also beat him over 15 minutes and potentially mix in some grappling. All this to say, though, with the questionable chin of Nico Price and the way that Morono has been caught before, I'm looking to play under this matchup. I will definitely get in there on the betting angle, but not so much touching the money line. DraftKings-wise, another very interesting one. I think Morono is kind of a pivot off the Holland, Strickland, Perez range. I don't like him as much as Perez, but he is still someone who I do think has knockout upside. Scored 106 against Cerrone when he did get a knockout there, but has also been content to score 46 points in a win or score 75 in a win. And is a guy who is just not so trustworthy from a DraftKings perspective. I do think the ceiling is there. I just think he is a lower priority option than people around him, and I kind of prefer to go elsewhere. Pricing this side of things does kind of intrigue me. 7.3K. I mean, a guy who has beaten Morono before, a guy who does have good knockout power. And when we've seen him win fights, he scored 106 against Vic, 113 against Means. He does have good upside in a knockout win, and I do think he has the opportunity to knock out again Morono, who is chinny here. Although I'm picking Morono, and I do think it's more tools going to get done, I kind of prefer the price side on DraftKings. Either way, I do think these guys are both pivot GPP plays, not my favorite priority targets. Next up, 10-4 Phil Rowe, 19-7 Jake Matthews. This one's also a fun one. Between two guys who have also been a bit inconsistent here. Phil Rowe is a guy who I haven't been too high on, is typically losing the early rounds in fights, but can rally back. Is a guy who is also pretty well-rounded, long, lanky frame. He's going to have an 8-inch reach advantage here, which is funny as well, but he doesn't really excel at too much. I think he's got good power, but he can be hit. The distance can be close on him. He can be taken down. He can be hurt in his own right. He has flaws, and although I think he has all the tools to put it together one day, he's inconsistent, and I think there are better fighters who can beat him. I mean, he had a comeback win against Witt, comeback win against Costa, comeback win against Price. I mean, a lot of his wins have been him getting late success because his opponents tire out or he's able to find the flaw in them. I think it's going to be a bit harder here. And Jake Matthews, a guy who I just think is, although he's had his problems, is just a much more consistent fighter than the guys he's fought recently. Now, consistent and Matthews don't always go together so well. We saw that in the Semmelsberger fight, but he's a guy who I do think has really good box combinations, absolutely lit up Fiallo there, can mix it down on the ground the same way he did Flowers. He just has a very well-rounded skill set, a very good cardio to back, and also has been historically durable. So if I think Jake Matthews is going to be the better crisp boxer of the two, have the ability to mix in takedowns, is more consistent, gets off to a quicker start than Rowe, who does take a little bit to get going, he's going to pick to win, and if the line keeps closing, I will take a shot on Jake Matthews at a reasonable price tag. DraftKings-wise, though, in the mid-range, this one has some appeal. Jake Matthews has shown the ability to go out there and win fights, but has never really eclipsed 100 points since 2018 and win over Hazel there. He doesn't have the most upside, especially at a card when we have so many high scorers, it might be tougher to get to him. Phil Rowe, another guy who has a lot of comeback wins, and because of that, has never really eclipsed 100 points. These are guys who I think have solid success in the mid-range, but due to this being one where I'm siding with Matthews, but I don't think he goes out there and blows him out of the water early, this could be a low-scoring fight in a card that does score a lot of points on DraftKings. I'm also kind of using this one as a contrarian play. I know I've been saying that a lot. I promise to put a stance on some of them going forward, but pick is Matthews. I think he's a solid DraftKings option. Let's move on. Next up, 22-1 Grant Dawson, 13-4 Joe Solecki. Another fun fight. A huge favorite here in Grant Dawson, a guy who was a favorite in main event against Bobby Green. Dropped the ball, and now here he is again. Does he do it again? Does he mess up? Who knows? And truth be told, I do think Grant Dawson has a good skill set. I picked him over Bobby Green in that matchup. I rostered him on DraftKings. I was all for him. I love his grappling pace, love his wrestling upside. I do think he's a very solid fighter who I do think has the opportunity to get some solid wins here. Joe Solecki is also a guy who I've had success betting recently, just betting against. I mean, I bet Drakkar close in that matchup, bet the under and slam knockout. I don't think that happens too often, but it was a pretty good showing there. But we kind of forget that this was a guy who was 5-1 in the UFC before that matchup, and now is a very big underdog, albeit taking a big step up in competition. I don't know how much his line is warranted. When it comes down to breaking the fight as a whole, the better volume striker, in my opinion, is Grant Dawson. The better technical striker is Joe Solecki, but the guy who's going to have more success landing takedowns, Dawson. Solecki can be stuck off his back, and although he has phenomenal jiu-jitsu, I do think Grant Dawson can win minutes that way. Does he win minutes enough to be a minus 400 favorite? Not very much, in my opinion. I do think it's a closer fight than it entails, and I do think Joe Solecki is very, very likely to get a sub. If that line continues to climb, I'll sprinkle that as well, but to me, it just makes for a very interesting matchup. Grant Dawson will be my pick. I do think he has more avenues of getting it done, and although Solecki can get a win, I think he's more so rooted in a finish. And although he can get it, I don't think it's more than 50%, so I'm going to pick Grant Dawson into my head. Then it comes down to DraftKings. 9.3K Grant Dawson. He has scored well before, 123 against Gordon, 103 against Madsden. But that was in fights where he's able to get 7 takedowns, able to get 3 takedowns, able to get a lot of control time. And I don't think the control time's there. I think Solecki's content to play from bottom position. I think he's content to try to set up a sub, and if that's the case, I don't see much finish upside. I think this could be one where he goes out there and scores 90 points the same way against Ismagulov, scores 93 the same way against Narimani, and I don't really know if I want to prioritize him over an Almeida, Holland, Makhachev, people we'll get to. So just like Mazel Hafez, he is going to be a contrarian play in that mid-range. I actually kind of prefer Joe Solecki here, because like I said, his path to victory is going to be rooted in a finish, whether that be a submission off his back, whether that be landing the KO shot if Dawson's chin is really fried here. At 6.9K, he just got upside. He's a punt play. And if he's going to be a punt play in his win, he scored 106 against Deaton in a finish win there, scored a 104 to his finish win over Hubbard. He has submission upside. He has KO upside. 6.9K, I think he has a better chance to win than a Gall, than a Romanov, than a Oleksiejczuk. And for that reason, I will be playing him more so as a punt play in GBP. I think he has solid upside. Does he win all that often? Maybe not, but when he does, he should score well. Give me Grant Dawson as a pick of this fight. Give me Solecki as a dog on DraftKings. And the prelim headliner, 12-3 Roman Kopylov, 5-0 Cesar Almeida, and this has been the talk of the town. Very close. The line has actually flipped. Cesar Almeida is now the favorite, and it's interesting to me because I was never that high on Roman Kopylov. I mean, I picked Punahele Serrano against him, picked Arias against him, I bet Hernandez against him, so I'm 2-1 betting against him, but still a guy who I have faded more than I've bet. And a lot of that is because I do think people can go out there and wrestle him. Now, is Cesar Almeida going to wrestle him? Probably not. So for that reason, we get a very distinct dynamic. We get a guy in Kopylov who wants to kickbox, finally able to kickbox, except he's able to this time against a phenomenal world champ glory kickboxer, a guy who has gotten wins over there, the whole talk of glory over Pereira, Adesanya, all that stuff. It's true. The guy's a phenomenal technician, a lot of power in his hands, good ability to win minutes. And it makes it for a very interesting battle. And I think that when it comes down to pure kickboxing, Cesar Almeida is going to win a kickboxing badge. But does that mean I'm going to pick him to win? No, I'm actually siding with Roman Kopylov here. I think for the first time in a while, I'm picking him to win this fight. I just think he's able to mix in more options of MMA. I think he's able to have more success in the clinch. I think he's able to put on a pace on Cesar Almeida, who likes to fight from range. We saw Cesar Almeida tire. He's a guy who still is new to the sport. And if Roman Kopylov wants to, train over there in Dagestan, I do think he can land takedowns. Shall he decide to go that route? Either way, I think when it comes down to it, it's not like Almeida's going to blow Kopylov out of the water. I think it's going to be very close there. Kopylov, I still think, has more volume. Although he doesn't have the same power Almeida does, has volume, has the opportunity to go out there and win minutes that way. And shall I get to the cage, shall I get to level experience, I think the edge is in Kopylov's favor there. So at 50-50 odds, give me Roman Kopylov. If he gets to plus 110, plus 120, I'll play him. I may even play him at plus 100 like he is right now. I do think he has the ability to go out there and be the better mixed martial artist. He may not be the better kickboxer, but you don't have to be when you're trapped inside a cage. I think he has more avenues of getting it done. I think he has the opportunity to go out there, utilize his good durability, his good level of competition, his good ability to mix the martial arts, and have the ability to go out there and beat a guy, Cesar Almeida, who still is new to the UFC. When it comes down to DraftKings, fights right in the middle of the slate. Cesar Almeida, I don't want him. Truthfully, I guess he could knock out Kopylov, but Kopilov's been extremely durable. Almeida's not going to shoot takedowns, so for that reason at 8K, I'm not really getting to that often. Kopilov's a guy I'm kind of interested in because at that middle of the price range, he's shown he can have a lot of volume. Shall he go the wrestling route? I mean, I do think he has the opportunity to go out there and have a lot of success in that regard. And I do think he can be someone who can go out there and have a lot of success at 8.2. I've seen so much love from Cesar Almeida this week. If Kopylov is pretty under-owned, and there's not many other fighters I like in this mid-range, Kopylov can be a good pivot to go to. I do think he can mix in takedowns and have a really high ceiling that maybe people won't expect. If that's the case, 8.2K, I like him. He's my pick to win. I might get there on the money line. I'll be getting there on DraftKings. Very, very fun fight, though. On to the main card, 18-5 Randy Rude Boy Brown versus the 24-7-1 Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. Another really fun fight between two guys who, let's say, how do I put this one? Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos is a guy who is very consistent. We know he has phenomenal kickboxing, maybe getting up there a bit slower to the punch, can be taken down but scrambles very well. He's a bit of a dog. He's a guy who can push at heavy pace, loses to the elite level of competition, but very consistent in doing so. Randy Brown, I think, has all the skills in the world, but he's not very consistent. He can be hit, he can be knocked out. I think he showboats too often, fights too close, and although he has an insane height advantage, a safe reach advantage here, and I think he has great kickboxing metrics, he's a guy who's just been a bit untrustworthy. And when it comes to a battle of consistency, this roided up Brazilian who has phenomenal kickboxing in his own right, the ability to mix in takedowns, at an underdog price tag, I think I'm going to take him here. I know he's getting up there in age, but I do think I like what I saw from him recently. I don't think Brown's going to push the same pace as Fakradinov did, but he showed good cardio. I think he can definitely compete in the strike with Brown, and although there is a world where Brown utilizes that length and jabs his way to a decision, I think he's got to stay safe for 15 minutes. I think Zaleski's going to land the more damaging shots, and I do think he has more chance to get a finish. I mean, I trust Zaleski dos Santos' chin than I trust Brown's chin here. I mean, although the two knockout losses were to Delamata landed Luque, we've seen him walk, we've seen him wobble before, and if that's the case, I trust the durability more as Zaleski dos Santos. So like I said, packed with the victories there for Randy Brown. I just prefer the Zaleski dos Santos side here. I'm going to pick him as the underdog. I do think it's a very fun matchup. DraftKings-wise, although I'm picking Zaleski dos Santos, you might think, hey, good underdog, he's KO or bust. Because without that KO shot, he's not going to score well. Scored 50 in a win over Nurmagomedov. Scored 71 against Kunchenko there. 70 in a decision win against Griffin. In his knockout wins, he knocked out Strickland, scored 106. Submitted Millender, scored 102. He has to go out there and get a finish, in my opinion. But either way, as an underdog, I will be rostering somewhat because I do think he's someone who wins more than the line and tails. I just don't know if he has the highest ceiling out of everyone in this range. Randy Brown, I'm not getting to almost at all. He scored 105 against Salikov in that knockout, but 71 in decision win against Ronaldo, 69 in decision win against Williams. I don't think he wrestles that often. I think he's more of a volume-based decision. And although I think he can get that, I don't think he's a knockout too often for that reason. 8.5K, I prefer the people around him. I prefer a Perez, prefer a Lima, prefer a Matthews. So pass on that one. I'm actually picking the underdog here in Zaleski dos Santos. Should be a very, very fun fight, but I'll pick the dog here. And then these next four are absolutely insane. 20-3 Gelton Almeida, 17-2 Alexander Romanov. I love both these guys. When you look at me and my style of playing DraftKings, I love my grapplers, especially heavyweight grapplers here. I think this is two guys who I've backed a lot in their past, but two guys who are at different points here. I know I bet Gelton Almeida last time. He lost. He landed a ton of takedowns that first round, but lost to a perennial contender here in Curtis Blades. But Alexander Romanov's kind of been on the decline here. He's gained a lot of weight. His cardio's not there. Ever since that Tabora fight, I mean, the cardio fell off a cliff there. I mean, that's always been his issue. But let's not look past the fact that he is a phenomenal wrestler with incredible ground and pound, solid jiu-jitsu game. When he's on top position, he is very, very dangerous. But what we have here is two heavyweights who like to wrestle. We don't see that too often, right? And although Almeida may be the taller fighter with the longer reach here, he is a true light heavyweight. And Alexander Romanov is going to be heavier on the scale. Maybe not for good reason, but will be heavier on the scale on Saturday. And that just makes it for a very interesting matchup. Now, do I believe the line should be this wide? No. But am I picking Gelton Almeida? Yes, I am here. When it comes down to fighters I can trust, I think Almeida's in a better headspace right now. Yes, he lost to Blades, not putting too much stock into that. I think when it comes down to the guy shooting takedowns off the rip, I think Almeida has the opportunity to go out there and be aggressive. I think he has the better pure jiu-jitsu. I think he has a better ability to scramble, and I think he's the better striking on the feet here. And in the fact that he has the 100 times better cardio, especially against Gall Romanov, who gasses after 2 minutes, I think Almeida has more things going his way, and I do think he wins this fight at a pretty high clip. Now, do you want to trust this guy who was just knocked out by punches to the side of the head, who, we've seen struggle before against a guy in Romanov who, if he gets on top, will be maybe 20 pounds heavier? Maybe not. So I'm kind of tentative to play him here, but I do think Almeida wins this fight. I cannot trust Romanov at this point in his career. I do like Romanov. It's just a tough one to pick him here. DraftKings wise, though, I want this fight. If it's Almeida at 9.1K, I'll go out there and eat it. Averages 110 points. Scored 55 points in a second round loss last time. 134 against Lewis, 104 against Rozenstruik, 125 against Uriakimov, 120 against Turkali. I can go on. The guy scores great. Ton of takedown upside, especially against a guy in Romanov who we've seen finish in the first round before. I do think there's a ton of upside there. I do think he can get an early finish. I love him at 9.1K. One of my favorite options. Flip side of things, though, if Romanov wins, it's because he gets on top of Almeida and punches him out. I think his path to victory is rooted in finish upside. He is still a guy who scored 127 against Martinez, 133 against Bandera. He himself scores very, very well. So at 7.1K, he has maybe the highest ceiling of any underdog. Does he get it too often? Maybe not, but when he does, he scores very, very well. I will have split ownership on this one. I'm heavily favoring the Almeida side, but due to the underdog price tag Romanov, I will sprinkle some of him in there. Moving on, 25-11, Kevin Holland, 19-7, Oleksiejczuk. Another fun fight, and one where two guys went in different directions here as well. Kevin Holland, a big face of the UFC, a big mouth of the UFC, let's put it that way. Sorry, a guy who's fun to watch, always up for a fight, phenomenal striking from range, good power, really sneaky transition submission game, but also incredible durability, incredible volume. Just puts on a show every time, and I love his style. Most trustworthy fighter? Definitely not. Can be stuck on his back, doesn't always wrestle when he has to, but is a guy who has a very well-rounded skill set and can win a lot of fights here at the top of his range. Oleksiejczuk is also a guy I love. A ton of boxing, phenomenal pace and pressure. He works the body very well. He continues to go forward. He's also a fun fighter to watch, and on face value, this looks like two fighters who go out there and stand and bang, but we saw recently with Oleksiejczuk that maybe this isn't his priority. He moved out of his gym and is training with his brother now, does not look in the best shape, was finished early last time by Michel Pereira, and now faces a guy in Kevin Holland who's going to have 7 inches of reach. He's going to be able to match the volume of Oleksiejczuk. Has the submission game that we've seen Oleksiejczuk crumble to before because he has no ground game whatsoever. I just think there are more signs pointing to Kevin Holland. He has the ability to utilize his range. I think he has just as much power, and I think he has more desire to win at this point of his career. Give me Kevin Holland to win. I do think he wins this fight at a pretty high clip. I do like Oleksiejczuk, and I do see a world he's able to throw volume, but he needs to fight a perfect game plan against the length and size of Holland, and I don't think it happens too often, so give me Holland to get it done. At 9K, he's also a phenomenal option up there, and I know historically, 95 against Chiesa, 81 against Ponzinibbio, 88 against Mean, hasn't historically scored well at all, has been honestly a really bad DraftKings scorer. But he's facing a guy Michel Oleksiejczuk who doesn't look the best recently, who can be finished, who can absorb a lot of damage, who can be taken down. The ceiling is super high for Kevin Holland. For that reason, I like him. I do like Giannis Almeida more, but if you ask me if I want Hafez or Holland ceiling, I want Holland ceiling. If you ask me if I want Dawson or Holland, I kind of want Holland ceiling as well to play a little bit of upside there. I do like this guy in the mid-range. I do think he's going to put on a fun fight. I do think he gets a finish here. If that's the case, 9K will be playing him. Oleksiejczuk, I don't see a finish. I don't see grappling success. And if that's the case, 7.2K, don't want him so much. Prefer the upside of Price, prefer the upside of Costa, prefer the upside of Romanov. Give me Kevin Holland. On to the co-main event, 28-6, Sean Strickland, 14-3, Paulo Costa. And I've been struggling with this one. I think it's a very, very close fight. Sean Strickland's a guy who has phenomenal volume. He was the champion of the division. I saw him live in Canada. A lot of things have been going right for Sean Strickland. I thought he won that fight against Duplessis. Doesn't matter, right? He lost and look where he is now, facing a killer here in Paulo Costa, who's on the secret juice. I think it's going to be a very fun fight. Sean Strickland used to be a grappler, is not anymore, and is now just a pure boxer. He's going to have a clear cardio and volume edge over a guy in Paulo Costa, and this is truly going to be a moment versus minute winner. Minutes, especially in a 5-rounder, clearly favor Sean Strickland, so I get why he's a favorite here. But when it comes down to potential grappling success, when it comes down to power, when it comes down to moment winning, it's Paulo Costa. We've seen Sean Strickland lose by being rocked before. We saw him kind of tentative to Druskus Duplessis, and Paulo Costa has these wild bursts of energy. He's on all the juice, or the secret juice, sorry. I think he's very, very dangerous. And the more I think about this, although I think this fight could be 50-50, and maybe if it was gun to my head, I pick Sean Strickland, I think I'm going to pick Paulo Costa here. I think I just have this gut feeling that he's able to win more moments. I think I have this feeling that when it comes down to finish upside, it's going to be Paulo Costa. Although there's a world where Strickland wins on volume, the way we see Strickland hit, the way the grappling upside is there for Costa, I don't like how wide this line is. So if you're giving me a plus 210 underdog who I think has finished upside, I will take the shot on him here to win. Now, am I confident saying that? No. I think it's a very, very close fight. Of course, I've outlined the upside of Sean Strickland here, but a guy who I just think has crazy mind going on. I don't think he has the same mentality right now. I think he wants to go out there and put on a war. And if you're going to stand and bang against Paulo Costa, I mean, we had to see an iron chin from Vettori for him to survive that fight. Does Strickland have that same chin? Maybe not. Who knows? It's a very interesting one. I think I'm going to side with Costa, though. DraftKings-wise, you need this fight, though. 7.4K when Costa wins, he scores phenomenally, right? 84.5 against Rockhold. All right, maybe not as much, but in his finish wins. 110 against Hall, 100 against Hendrick, 109 against McClellan. We know he has power, potentially been grappling upside here, in 5 rounds to work at 7.4K. I love that play. Even being one of my favorite underdogs in the entire card. Whereas the other guy in Strickland, 8.8K, when he wins fights too, 112 against Magomedov, 117 against Imavov, 144 against Hall, 120 against Allen. So much volume on the feet. If this fight goes 25 minutes, he's going to land 200, 300 strikes maybe. So much volume, especially against a guy in Paulo Costa who's super hittable. At 8.8K, he's also a phenomenal option. So I'm going to be splitting my ownership on this one. I do like Strickland there, but by playing Costa, utilizing Costa underdog, I'm playing into that GP upside. It allows me to get a Holland or an Almeida. And I kind of like my builds that way. So I will have some Strickland, don't get me wrong, but the pick is going to be Costa. What is a very, very close one. I think because of the odds. If this was even, maybe I'd pick Strickland, but 210, I think Costa wins way more than that price entails. Should be a phenomenal fight. And then the main event, 25-1 Islam Makhachev, 30-8 Dustin Poirier. I'd love to come on here and say, oh, my tape study says that Poirier goes out there and I think he wins a decision at high clip. It's not. I'm not going to really beat around the bush here. I think Makhachev wins this fight at high clip. I think Poirier has a knockout chance. I mean, everyone's a knockout chance. We've seen Makhachev knocked out before. But I would be lying if I went out here and said, you know what, I think this fight's going to be close. It's a fight where Makhachev's going to have the wrestling upside. He's number 1 pound for pound in the world for a reason. I know Dustin Poirier has the fans behind him, had a good knockout last time. He was still taken down 3 times early on. He was still taken down 3 times to Michael Chandler to come from behind victory. He was just knocked out by Justin Gaethje. This guy can be taken down. He can be hit. His chin's deteriorating. He doesn't have the same athleticism as Islam Makhachev. I can't pick Dustin Poirier to win this fight. Am I cheering for him? I actually am cheering for Dustin Poirier. I would love it if he went out there, jumped guillotine, and got it. But quantitatively, I cannot pick him in this matchup. I would love. He's a puncher's chance. Has a ton of power. We've seen Makhachev knocked out before, but I mean, it seems like a pretty simple pathway for Makhachev. Maybe the price I shouldn't be minus 700, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't picking him. Do I think that Makhachev dominates Poirier the same way that Khabib did? Maybe not. I mean, 7 takedowns there. I don't know. But I would not be surprised if Makhachev's able to lock in a choke from the behind and continue the streak of Poirier, or just get takedown. Who knows that way? The pick is Islam Makhachev, although I am cheering for Dustin Poirier. DraftKings-wise, though, you also want this fight. The question just is, can Makhachev score well enough to make the optimal lineup 9.5K? Historically, I mean, you'd love to say yes. 113 against Volkanovski last time, scored 116 against Moises, 107 against Green, 119 against Oliveira. A ton of takedown upside, a ton of finish upside, but you need perfect for him at 9.5K. Khabib only scored 108 points. Is that enough from a guy here in Makhachev who's able to go out there and have a tough matchup? I don't know. In theory, yes, the path is there. In theory, yes, he has the grappling upside. I just wouldn't be surprised if he gets 2 takedowns, second round submission, scores 98, is on the optimal lineup. There's a lot of risk, and if you're looking to be different this week, I do think Makhachev's going to be really high owned, maybe playing the leverage spots like a Dawson or a Holland or a Morono. But at the end of the day, yes, Makhachev is a clear cash option. He does have a super high ceiling if you want to play him in GBP as well, but maybe one of the best options on the slate. The only way you don't play him is you want to get a bit different, or you're picking Dustin Poirier, 6.7K. He is just a pure upside play. In his wins, scored 92 against Saint Denis, 115 against McGregor, 108 against McGregor, 112 against Hooker. When he wins by knockout, he typically scores very well, and if he wins this fight, he's going to be in the optimal lineup, regardless. 6.7K. I mean, guillotine or knockout, there's only 2 chances, and they're very slim, but if they do happen, they should score very, very well, because that'll have some slight ownership with him, but I do think Makhachev's a rightful favorite here. He's going to be someone I'm rostering on DraftKings. I'm picking Makhachev, but cheering for Poirier. But that's going to do it for me here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. And quickly running through my quick picks, taking Islam Makhachev, Paulo Costa on a close one, Kevin Holland, Jailton Almeida, Oleksiejczuk dos Santos, Roman Kopylov, Grant Dawson, Jake Matthews, Alex Morono, Bazel Hafez, Elaine Perez, and Andre Lima. DraftKings-wise, I think that this top range is just Makhachev, Almeida, and then 3 pivot ops off of them. I think my favorite pivot is going to be Holland there. If you don't think Makhachev dominates, get away from him. He should be chalky. I do like the mid-range too. I think that Strickland 8.8K, that Strickland Costa fight as a whole is a great one to target. Elaine Perez is maybe my favorite mid-range target, 8.7K, 8, 9, 10 takedown upside. I think she's someone who can go very sneaky. And then mid-range underdog-wise, I don't mind Kopylov, don't mind Matthews, Zaleski dos Santos, and Costa I picked outright, so they're good underdogs, and then Raposo as grappling upside. And then the punt plays this week are Romanov and Price. I think if they win, as well as Solecki, if they win, they should be finishes, and they should score very, very well. So Reignmakers-wise, highest ceiling, Makhachev, Almeida, Holland, the winner of Strickland, Costa, Perez. I really like those 5 there. And then betting wise, have not locked in anything yet, to be completely honest, but I will be playing the under in the Morono price fight. I'll probably end up betting Costa by finish, honestly, if the line keeps coming that way. I'll play Kopylov as an underdog. I'll play Matthews if the line keeps closing. And I might even look for some Hail Mary props and maybe a Solecki submission or Zaleski dos Santos KO. But you can find all that stuff at GamblesGordo on Twitter. I'll post my final slate of bets Friday night or Saturday morning, one of the two. I appreciate everybody checking me out. Check out the Best Bets video here on the Plays Video YouTube channel, sponsored by CoolBet, as well as all the work done by Establish the Run over there. Me and Brett Appley. Podcast going tomorrow night. But I appreciate everybody tuning in. Hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel. Show some love. Leave a comment if you guys have any questions or concerns down below. I wish you all the best of luck in all your betting and drafting endeavors, guys. Let's make some money.